Dr. Randomercam did it, Amazing Atheist did it, Armored Skeptic did it, Shu did it, Wizard of Cause is doing it, Spino did it, Chris Raygun did it, it's my turn to do it. So we have another questions video to tackle here. I'm sure all of you remember me answering many, so many, of BuzzFeed's questions. We're going to try and answer these not BuzzFeed, but BuzzFeed-style questions directed at anti-SJWs. And since I'm a person who's opposed to the mindset and actions that define one as an SJW, I thought I'd provide a few answers. Some snarky, some maybe not so snarky, but I'm in a very snarky mood right now. There's a lot of snark in this video too, so I thought I'd counter with some snark. Since these question to questions from videos remind me of two different armies sitting in trenches taking pot shots at each other and constantly missing, I'm just going to climb out of the trench and let every question land directly center mass as if it was asked of me. Let's start cooking with gas.
Are you able to understand the irony of responding to the perceived political correctness of the left with exasperated reactionary hypersensitivity of your own?
It's not just perceived, man. It's real. Imagine both of us are sitting in a movie theater, and we're both obviously watching a movie. Every 10 seconds, someone directly in front of me screams, "That's offensive!" at the top of their lungs, disrupting everyone else who's trying to have a good time. And after the 14th time, I pipe up and yell, "Hey, you want to shut up and let people watch the movie?" Then you lean in and say, "Don't you understand the irony of reacting to perceived political correctness with reactionary, exasperated hypersensitivity of your own?" Because that's what you're doing right now. Isn't it ironic how you have to run to catch a burglar who's running away from you? Oh, I'm so in tune with the world. I have a YouTube channel. I have to keep things factual and entertaining over here. Cut me some slack if I try to keep ears perked up by saying, "What?" in a very exasperated tone.
What is it with you people and skulls?
What is it with Black Lives Matter and killing innocent police officers? What is it with SJWs rushing police officers to try and stop peaceful men's rights discussions? Stand in front of a mirror and give me the argument you're going to give me. Hopefully you'll melt into a pool of bubbling sulfur like all the legends say you will.
How do you define right-wing?
More economic and religious freedom, but less social and recreational freedom? Anyway, both of the wing labels are meaningless to me. They're getting more and more meaningless to more and more people. And I think that's a step in the right direction, if you'll pardon the pun.
Anti-SJWs often have an aversion to being labelled as right-wing, yet they regularly defend the right and bash the left. Therefore, why is being labelled right-wing a bad thing to you?
Okay, fuck it. I'm right-wing. Where does the argument go from here? I'm still going to hold the exact same positions I did 5 seconds ago, but I called myself right-wing just now. What's the exit strategy? Where's the getaway car? You're stuck in a bank with a gun pointed at the teller and no means of escape. The cops are on the way! Seriously though, where do we go from this point in the conversation? Or was that the only victory you needed? Think on these things.
And if it's because right-wing is used as a pejorative, can you not see how labelling people as SJWs or regressives is also pejorative?
I bash both wings, by the way. And it's supposed to be pejorative. It's used as a pejorative against people who want to move decent progress backwards in the name of progress, and will use violent, dishonest, malicious, and slimy tactics in order to get there. Not everybody on the left is a regressive or SJW, but indeed, everyone on the right is right-wing. You're trying to demonize an entire wing of the political spectrum, while others are actually trying to identify the demons and give, what I presume, is your wing of the political spectrum a desperately needed exorcism. Right-wing is not an insult or a pejorative. The fact that you think it is tells me everything I need to know. Why do you think regressive and SJW were invented as terms, as opposed to people just using left-wing? Because people are making honest distinctions between good people and assholes. You're giving the right no such courtesy, are you? Uh-oh, I just defended the right and bashed the left. Looks like I'm right-wing again. Perhaps I wouldn't need to do as much defending if people actually dealt with some of their bad arguments, as opposed to just flinging pejoratives around, because right-wingers is the bad people. Janitor, you want to chime in?
Are you able to understand the irony?
Rather than telling people you disagree with to drink bleach.
Damn it, Tom, get with the memes, okay? The meme is that you're so fed up with the stupidity that's come your way that you would rather drink a substance that will erode your mucous membranes than put up with the nonsense for another moment. If given the option between listening to you and guzzling a gallon of something toxic, the meme is that the toxic chemical would be preferable to that. It's that people don't want to hear anything come out of your mouth anymore, and in order to ensure that outcome, they drink poisonous things, Mr. Avella. Do you understand? Are you getting it now?
Wouldn't it be more productive for you to have an actual conversation about the issues you feel matter? Or is it just easier to do the bleach thing?
I would love to have a conversation about the issues that I feel matter. I discuss the issues that I feel matter on this channel. But it seems, whenever I attempt to have a conversation about feminism, or Islam, or Black Lives Matter, or the infestation of nonsense in academia, a lot of people are keen on calling me a bigot, when I've said nothing bigoted. This is the problem with a lot of this high and mighty, let's just have a conversation shit. Because conversations nearly always go the same way on these topics. The goal isn't come to a resolution or solution to an issue. The goal is, I'm going to wait until this person says something disagreeable to me, and the moment they do that, I'm going to attempt to call them every bad name I can think of, yet still pretend I'm just having an amicable chat. That's why people aren't interested in conversation with their opponents anymore. Everyone is constantly trying to catch someone out as opposed to having a simple discussion. I tried having a simple, honest, nice public conversation with someone I'd consider an SJW, and I was interrupted every 5 seconds when I was trying to respond to what they said. I enjoy doing these responses in this format because it doesn't allow anyone to interrupt me. It gives me time to think and go over things in my head. And I know people hate that. More time for thinking. It's just preposterous and cowardly. Debate my favorite YouTuber in the ring, faggot! Sorry, I went on a little bit of a tangent there. Moving on.
You claim to be proponents of rational, logical, evidence-based argumentation. That's great. That's entirely laudable.
Ah, Professor Moriarty. I don't believe we've met. The name's Sherlock Holmes. I really wanted to make that joke. Data, data, data. I cannot make bricks without clay.
But when I look at your online activity, when I look at, I don't know, for example, your Twitter feed, that's often not what I see. How do you reconcile this claim to be evidence-based and rational and logical against stuff like, oh, I was just trolling you, oh, I was just shitposting, or TLDR?
Elementary. You see, people are not one-dimensional. Sometimes they enjoy telling jokes and just screwing around online. It's like someone showing you their favorite song, and you say, oh, well, why is it your favorite song? And they say, it sounds cool. And I don't know, I just enjoy it a lot. And then you come back with, you claim to be logical, rational, and evidence-based. Dude, just let people have fun online. Don't go to fucking Twitter for a rational conversation about anything. People are not rational over there. It's basically the mosh pit of social media platforms.
No, seriously? What is it with you people and skulls?
What is it with you people and looking like used Q-tips? You want to tell jokes? I'll tell jokes.
Are you aware that the ridiculous buzzwords you helped to popularize, like
Right wing.
have all lost whatever meaning they once had and only serve now as catch-all insults and pejoratives to derail any meaningful conversation?
You're a racist, sexist, Islama homophobe, misogynist, Michael. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you trying to have a meaningful conversation? My bad.
For the last time, what is it with you people and committing actual literal felonies? Like, you might want to work on that?
As opposed to, like, fictional felony? Again, stand in that mirror, you brave soul, and tell me what it is with Black Lives Matter committing literal felonies. It's a tough riddle, isn't it?
I mean, I thought the Ralph retort was so rational when he was fantasizing about beating up women with dyed hair, but then he assaulted a police officer, and finally I was convinced.
Don't give a fuck about the Ralph retort. Never claimed he was some beacon of rationality. Next! Can we just cut this douche from the video altogether? He's hardly even asking questions. He's just making accusations in the form of questions. Maybe we'll reflect some of that back at him, and he'll cut it out. Oh, let's try it. Okay. Why'd you start beating your wife, dude?
In videos and in the comment sections, anti-feminists often take up the most extreme or the weakest feminist position they can find, or they just straight up misrepresent what the feminist position is. Instead, why not take up the strongest, most robust feminist argument you can find and really challenge yourself?
Of course, this is just a variant on the "you only go after the low-hanging fruit" accusations that annoying people constantly fling around. Generally, these people haven't watched my channel for very long, because I've actually gone through reports, papers, and things like that before on this channel, and did a pretty damn good job of discussing why they don't prove what people say that they prove. But this low-hanging fruit accusation generally doesn't come with the added phrase, "and what you said was wrong." It's just someone upset that you didn't take on the biggest scholars they have to offer. Christy, do you consider Roxanne Gay a feminist who argues robust positions? Because I've taken her on before. Conveniently, once you address someone that someone else considers high-hanging fruit, 4 other people will come along and say the person you argued against wasn't smart enough. It's a giant game of find the proper scholars whack-a-mole, and I won't be participating in that shuffle with you. I've criticized the base claims of feminism numerous times. It'd be nice if you could address my points as opposed to saying, "That's not the smartest feminist that exists, so these claims immediately don't align with any of ours. Why take on the dummies?" It's stupid, it's childish, and it proves you have nothing. Also, is there one feminist position? I thought feminism wasn't a, monolith. Moving on.
I am deeply concerned with male addiction rates, suicide rates, and abuse rates.
Me too. I'm glad to see someone sharing my concern.
Because I have worked with these issues in the quote-unquote real world. Would you be willing as anti-feminists to put aside your differences with feminists for the greater good of addressing these issues, especially as the kind of solutions needed are not necessarily gendered? And if so, I would actually like you to let me know, because I'm not fucking around or presenting any gotchas here. I actually really think that we could get something done if we work together. So yeah.
You might be entirely genuine here, so I'm not going to pass any snark in your particular direction, but I'll let you know why people who have been advocating for addressing these issues are cautious about putting aside their differences with feminists. I'm sure, if you're being genuine, people could put aside their differences with you, but feminists in general, no. Because feminists have been the ones preventing this from being addressed for years. Years. It was a bunch of childish, "lol, what about the men's? Cry your male tears, you're fucking scum. Wow, men have it so bad, lol, enjoy your privilege. What's that? You're talking about men's issues? Let's get these bigots off of our campus immediately by force if necessary." But now that feminists have basically lost the argument on a decent chunk of the internet, they want to scramble and say, "Well, we've been talking about male issues this whole time. We're super concerned. Please let feminism take some credit for this." No. They don't get a pat on the back from me for deciding to help tear down the wall that they themselves built to halt men's issues from being discussed in any substantial way. And claim credit for helping the conversation along. Go fuck yourselves. Not you in particular, but you should know what I'm talking about.
What is third wave?
Nope.
Why is it that this feminist represents all feminists?
Ah, so she is a feminist. I was wondering about that. I'm not sure whether she was. I mean, I don't actually know for sure that she's a feminist. Or just someone who thinks that certain things are hate speech and felt the need to disrupt a public event over it. I know she has all of the feminist stereotypes glued to her like a cartoonish collage. But, yeah, I don't exactly 100% know for sure whether she is one. But for the sake of argument, sure, she's a feminist.
But this men's rights activist doesn't represent all men's rights activists.
Whoa, wait, sexism all of a sudden? Ladies and men are different? So we're supposed to punch men and not hit ladies and open doors for men but not ladies? Fuck you, get out of my face, you tiny piece of shit.
Oh my god. I haven't seen that. Thank you for bestowing this gift upon me. And the thing is, I actually do call myself an MRA. And for the sake of argument, let's say that this guy is definitely an MRA, like the previous person is a feminist. I can still laugh at this person for their ridiculous emotional tirade. I'm not required to plant my flag and defend this idiot simply because he's an MRA. Being an MRA doesn't put me in some weird ideological hellhole that I can't escape from. Try not to obsess over labels, and focus on positions instead. If someone was out there spitting on babies and screaming, "Freedom of expression!" I wouldn't feel the need to defend them either. It's kind of a perk of not being emotionally invested in a label. So which one do you want? Do you want neither of them to be represented by either of these people, or do you want both of them represented by both of these people? You can't just pick and choose. Not claiming you are, just saying.
Why am I continually asked to answer for the views of feminists if I agree with feminism's overall aims?
What are the aims? And are they the actual aims?
But don't agree much with those particular feminists. Does that mean that I can ask you to answer for anybody who labels themselves similarly to you, even if you don't agree much?
I don't know. Why do you feel the need to slap labels on people when they don't want to be stuck with that label? You're right-wing. Admit you're right-wing. What's wrong with being right-wing? Let me call you right-wing. I need you to step into this box right now. Step into my preconceived Satan box, please. Wait, why are you making me answer for people who label themselves similarly to me? What's with all this focus on labels, man? Just chill out, bro. Yeah, knock it off. I know your game and I'm not playing it. You don't have to answer for every feminist, obviously. But if you slap labels on people without taking account of anything they say, prepare for people to hold you accountable for your label if you insist on making people account for labels they don't even want. You reap what you sow in this world.
If S-Jews are bad...
I'm sorry, I couldn't. S-Jews. S-Jews, folks.
Because they spend too much time whining and don't talk about real problems, then why aren't you talking about those problems instead of just whining about the other people over and over and over for literally years?
Why don't you just talk about those real problems? Okay, well, I'll start by, you hate women, you hate minorities, you hate women. Why don't you just talk about the real problems? I'm trying to talk about them, but why are you so racist? You're so sexist, holy shit! Why don't you talk about the real problems, racist? Why don't you just discuss these problems? Start discussing the problems already, you hateful bigots! Has the point been made yet? It's like someone slashing your tires and then saying, why don't you just drive away? Why are you here? I only slashed your tires and put sugar in your gas tank. Just drive away. Quit whining about, well, you messed up my car. Just drive away. Douchebag.
I mean, in the scale of priorities, that's like even lower, right? You know, you've got the real problems. You've got the things that feminists worry about.
You don't worry about those problems that you've listed there. You exaggerate them and try to get everyone else to be frightened of your exaggerations.
And then you've got you going, oh, how dare they? Just... how dare they have different priorities from me? Why can't they do what I do? Whine about whining. Forever. For a living. That's healthy.
Fucking dickhead. I can't tell whether you or Christy Winters are the most oblivious, pretentious person on the goddamn planet, but you might have taken the cake with this one. Guess what's lower on the priority list than whining about whining? Whining about whining about whining. And right now, I'm whining about whining about whining about whining. That's healthy and rational. Anyone can play this stupid ping-pong match with you until you're just writing whining 100 times on the walls trying to out-important each other until both of you die. Someone can do 1 and 3 simultaneously in your idiotic trichotomy, you pompous asshat, you smart... Oh my god, I really dislike you. I don't think I could actually sit down and have a normal conversation with you. It's very difficult to make me genuinely dislike someone, but you're just completely insufferable. Not only are you wrong, but you're that confident know-it-all but actually know nothing kind of wrong. Not a fan.
Why don't you seem as concerned with actual feminist theory in academia as you are with wrecking people for views?
See, this doesn't really apply to me, but anyway. Where do feminists on YouTube get their feminist points from? Feminist theory in academia, don't they? I've argued against patriarchy theory, argued against rape culture, argued against the wage gap being caused by definitely sexism, argued against various ways people are trying to make society guilty of rare circumstances, and argued against believe the victim mentality. Where do you want me to go? If you consider that wrecking people for views, then that's on you. I look at arguments, and if they're flawed, I dismantle them in a way that's both intellectually honest and entertaining.
Since so many of you profess
You do understand that reading the title of a book or an article or watching the first 15 seconds of a video is not going to give you a deep, nuanced understanding of what that book or article or video is about, right? That being said, how can you expect to understand or critique feminist sources if you don't even attempt to understand what they're trying to say?
That wasn't really a question. It was more of a read things all the way through accusation, and that doesn't apply to me either. I read an entire collection of Roxane Gay's essays before I critiqued it. Cover to cover, pal. It was brutal, but I got it done to avoid accusations like the one you just levied.
Why is trying and failing to debunk a study into sexual assault the #1 priority for a rational thinker now? Does it maybe...
This all sounds really pathetic to me at this point. Many people have actually succeeded in debunking these surveys. They aren't exactly studies, but they have succeeded in showing how they don't actually prove their conclusions. It's a priority for rational thinkers to debunk whatever they can debunk. This just sounds like someone saying, why are a bunch of rational people critiquing the stuff I like now? Go critique other stuff. We're not really important. Just ignore us. We'll be fine without you. We'll just peddle whatever we want and then mock you for debunking totally unimportant and not worth your time claims. How sad. Also, he's a terrible comedian. I'm not going to subject you to that. Go watch the original video if you want to see his little cell phone routine.
One of the major arguments that I see in many of your videos is that it is possible to separate criticism of the religion of Islam from the actual Muslim people. And yet, this line seems to be crossed very often. I see things like raghead or camel fucker or other things like that in your comment sections. I see people taking very serious shots at Muslims in videos and hangouts, and they don't get called out. At least not that I can see. So my question is this: why should a person of conscience who is concerned about the Muslim people and their community not being harmed or mistreated, why should they believe that you're actually only attempting to look at the ideas and talk about the ideas if you ignore bigotry that's occurring right in front of you? And in that light, would you be willing to break bread and salt with moderate Muslim people on your videos, have hangouts, invite them to your channel?
Oh my god. I feel like I'm being lectured right now. I have not used those terms, and I can't control who watches my videos or who comments on them. I actually spoke to someone IRL who had a relative killed by Muslim extremists in Pakistan. It was a very interesting and somber conversation, and we sat around and discussed Islam for a little while in my living room before we moved on to another topic. He was actually a really cool guy who had no problem saying that the Quran and Hadiths have some questionable stuff in it. It was a really nice chat. I don't need to police my comment section in order to be a decent person and break bread, as they say.
Do you deny that systemic racism against black people is like a thing in general?
In general, yeah, I do deny that. Specific systems? I don't know, show me the evidence. Compelling evidence. A racial disparity does not necessarily equal racism. That seems to be a point lost on a lot of people these days.
If so, what? Okay, just step over. Just cover your ears for a second and let the smart people talk.
And just a quick reminder, you don't talk out of your ears. You actually talk out of your mouth. Covering your ears wouldn't prevent you from speaking.
If not, why is it so much more important to you to demonize groups like Black Lives Matter than to actually use your platforms to discuss actual solutions to issues surrounding race and racism?
Stop trying to dictate how people can use their platforms. It's their platform for a reason, and that reason being that they built that platform, or at least earned that platform. And what if they're trying to criticize Black Lives Matter because they think that they're exacerbating racial tension as opposed to fixing it? Maybe they think the actions of some Black Lives Matter members aren't good solutions to the problems you care about. But no, of course not. Black Lives Matter are above the problem. There's no way they could contribute to it at all. Stop criticizing the people I like immediately and use your platform to say exactly what I would say if I had your platform. Nice try.
If you've ever discussed or done a video about black-on-black crime, when are you going to do a video about white-on-white crime and what we, as white people, can do to solve the problems in our community?
I don't think I've ever done a video on black crime. Generally, whenever I bring up black on black crime. It's when people start claiming that the unrest in some black neighborhoods is caused by white people. That's when I would bring up black on black crime statistics. I really just want to go back to a point where we could call it crime, but since people insist on blaming entire races for things, I have to bring this point up. Do you think that finding a way to mitigate crime in those areas would assist that community? Or do you think that anyone proposing that's a racist who didn't spend enough time talking about white people?
Why is a literal teenager's different definition of racism from you so horrifying that you all have to go, no! No, we have to stop him! We've got to debunk him now! Ah!
This was called Reasonable Questions for Anti-SJWs, right? Someone said something incredibly stupid and bigoted on the internet, and I've been told in the comment section that I was the most sensitive to Milo's state of mind. Why are you the one who seems to be complaining that people criticize people you don't want criticized? Would you have said the same thing if a 40-year-old man said the same thing that Milo said, and a bunch of people criticized him? Probably not, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But Milo is literally a literal teenager who literally just said literal stuff on the literal internet. Literally.
Wherever did you get the idea that...
You often say that you are for equality of opportunity, but if people of color, for instance, have to overcome barriers whites do not, such as discrimination and unequal treatment, as are well documented in various studies.
Citation needed. Studies I've been sent have not been up to par. Next.
Do you understand basic English syntax?
Huh? Get I do English is yes. Language is English I talk at when internet online to you for the video zing record, sir.
It's like, if I say this cat is pretty, I don't mean that all other cats aren't pretty. Like, do you really not get why saying all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter is not only racially insensitive, but just patently ridiculous?
Do you get that when someone says all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter, it's possible that they're just agreeing with you? Do you get that when someone says all lives matter, they don't mean all lives matter except for black people?
Isn't it offensive to men to assume that a man could only ever want equality for women, and therefore be comfortable with feminism as a whole in order to get laid?
Do you understand basic English syntax? Are you able to understand the irony of...
And that reduces us to beasts? If that was the case, wouldn't I attempt to get laid from my views instead of not ever trying that?
I don't know. I don't think that men can only be feminists because they want to get laid. You see the problem with this format, right? He was probably just responding to a few idiots in his comment section or on Twitter that said, "Bleh, you're only a feminist because you want to get laid." And then he just projects that into his question. I don't think it's necessarily offensive to men, though. I think it's supposed to be offensive to you.
If you say you're an egalitarian, will you call out the man-hating slurs that you see coming from people within your community? People who use terms like cuck, beta male, faggot, or mangina? All of these things basically distill men down into thinking that the most important thing about them is to be having sex with a woman. That's rather offensive. So what are you doing to stop this kind of behavior in your community?
Most of those terms are pretty cringy to me, so I only use them in a joking fashion. If people are dismissing points by calling people cucks, manginas, betas, or whatnot, then yeah, they're being a jerk. But I'm not in a position to tell people what insults they can and can't say on the internet. I can only tell people why I do or don't use those insults. Plus, I was just told by Michael over there that words like these have basically lost all meaning anyway. I do find it interesting, though, that the only subtle whiffs of man-hating you seem to care about come from the people you already have a distaste for. Lovely. Just lovely.
What is the number of followers, the number of likes, the number of dislikes, the number of retweets, the number of subscribers, any of those numbers, any of those metrics, what have they got to do with the argument? Deepak Chopra, for example, a man who trots out an endless stream of pseudoscientific quantum woo bollocks, has nearly 3 million followers. So what? Those people follow him because he tells them what they want to hear. Why even mention the number of followers you have? What difference does it make?
Because if I criticize someone who has a lower number of subscribers or followers, I'll be accused by some people of harassing people off of YouTube.
Why is it that you go on and fucking on about safe spaces and trigger warnings and delicate little flowers, but continue to hide behind your cartoon avatars and your childish pseudonyms?
My name's Justin Little, bitch. And I'm fabulous.
And whenever anyone calls you out on your sexist, racist, homophobic, bigoted rhetoric, have all lost whatever meaning they once had, and only serve now as catch-all insults and pejoratives to derail any meaningful conversation.
Are you willing to publicly acknowledge and admonish the massive amount of hatred, bullying, harassment, and intimidation that a lot of your fans infringe upon people? And I don't mean these tiny disclaimers that you put under the description fold or flash for 2 seconds at the beginning of the video that you know nobody reads. I mean a public and ongoing anti-bullying stance. Or do you kind of like watching your fans go around harassing people and calling them slurs and telling them to kill themselves? You kind of like it, don't you? I mean, if that's your thing, and I guess that's just what you're into, just makes you a dick.
Case in point, Moriarty. Anyway, I don't control my fans. And I don't think that my fans have ever gone to a video and spammed, "Kill yourself, I hate you, I hope you die" crap. But I am very anti-bullying. I've stood up to various bullies in my life. I don't consider a bunch of comments that say, "This is so fucking stupid," bullying. I consider it people, online, saying things that I can turn off at any moment of the day. And that's not my bullying you off of the internet. That's you being unable to handle having your opinions in the public forum. When people thought I said some stupid shit, other channels criticized me and said I said some stupid shit. Then people, presumably from there, came to the comment section and said, "Hey, you said some stupid shit," and that's perfectly fine. That's not bullying. My fans don't need a disclaimer because most of them aren't fucking idiots. They know not to go around screaming, "Kill yourself," if they want to be taken seriously. And nothing I have said, ever, can be construed into my approving of said action or ordering it. Because I wouldn't do that, because I'm not actually a dick, believe it or not.
Why do you find it so hard to believe that feminists are being harassed online?
Evidence.
Do you understand the key importance of reproducibility and repeatability in scientific research? That's simply going to Google Scholar, doing a 30-second search for keywords and pulling out the first paper you find that backs up your stance is not a particularly credible way to do research. That you have to have a much broader overview to read the material, to follow the citations through, to look at the broad brush approach to a particular problem. You do realise that you're as much of a social justice warrior as those you critique. It's just that you espouse a different form of social justice, a rather less considerate, rather less forgiving, rather less kind form of social justice.
Do you recognize that having a meta-analysis of individual terribly flawed studies doesn't actually turn the research into anything worthwhile? And you said you're just as bad as those you critique. You're not even defending social justice warriors. You're just saying you do it too, and you're also meaner. Except I don't do it too. So you're just calling me mean. Pardon my rudeness, but next.
If you identify as an egalitarian, then I'm interested in your take on the usefulness of the concept of the original position as laid out by John Rawls in his theory of justice.
I mean, you know how I feel about philosophy, but that's a bit of a weird one. It was slightly derivative of Hume when he was discussing the judicious spectator. I think the point about the veil of ignorance is a decent one in regards to how we treat people in society. But it's not necessarily a concept that we could translate into reality. We can't impose a literal veil. We're constantly meeting people and simply observing obvious things about them. All we can do is attempt to convince people that certain traits are irrelevant because they are when discussing certain things in order for them to be a bit more rational in their choice making in regards to sex, race, class, and various other factors that make up someone's identity, when that identity is not an issue that needs to be considered in nearly every situation regarding justice. Oh, didn't expect that shit, did you, Christy? I don't care if the answer was bad. Am I the only one who answered it? Check all the videos. Did someone actually answer the question, or am I the first one? I really hope I'm the first one. That ought to wipe that smug smirk off your face.
As a supporter, as a proponent of freedom of speech, why do you want to quash academic freedom? If you're not familiar with the concept of academic freedom, it's worth, in the UK at least, looking up the 1988 Education Reform Act and seeing what that says about the rights of academics to put across unpopular opinions.
I do support academic freedom. I just don't want academic freedom to extend to the point where things are so free that even objectively wrong things can be objectively right in academic circles.
Why are you so obsessed with Anita Sarkeesian?
Did I make a Sarkeesian video? I can't remember, but it's not coming to me. I mentioned her when she went to the UN, and I mentioned her in regards to the Twitter Trust and Safety Council, but that's it, I think. Not really an obsession. Unless you have a weird definition of obsession.
Do you really think you can spend your entire life in a perpetual state of emotional immaturity?
Maybe.
Do you actually imagine that you will be able to perpetuate your adolescence
Say something about your...
for your entire existence? Wait, didn't somebody else ask this one? Wait, I gotta... Ah, fuck.
See you later. Have a wonderful day.